Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Orrin Klopper of Netsurit. Orrin, excited to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Krish. Excited to be on the show.
Yes, absolutely. It should be a phenomenal time. And before we jumped into the interview, I wanted to read a little bit more about Orrin so you could hear about some of those awesome things that he's doing. And CEO of Netsurit, a 30 million MSP firm, grew to 100 plus people and 30 million plus dollars in revenue through acquisitions and organic growth. Globally awarded Dreams program as a key part of the Netsurit aspirational culture. And he went to 9 schools as a kid, only got expelled from 3. So 6 out of 9 is not that bad. And he enjoys swimming, traveling, and vino or wine. Excited to have you on the show, Orrin, and talk about all the awesome things you're doing in your journey. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Yes, thank you, Gresh.
Yes, absolutely. And 6 to 9 is definitely not bad at all the awesome things that you're doing. So I guess to kind of kick everything off, let's rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started with a Career CEO story.
No, sure. I think if I look back at my time at school, I thrived under teachers that I really respected, and where I didn't necessarily connect and respect the teacher, I didn't really. Well, let's just put it this way: I was trouble and a problem in that class, and I realized pretty early on I I probably need to navigate and architect a way that I can travel the entrepreneurial journey, and did various things. I got a student loan to pay for my university degree, and during that time did everything to make money, from selling books and magazines for my brother's business on Sundays to selling shoes and clothing at restaurants and building sites to throwing parties. And eventually a friend at university invited me to come and sell computers and engineering calculators. And long story short, that's how the journey started. And yeah, I suppose uh, over 25 years ago, that's where the journey started. And here we are today.
Nice. I definitely, appreciate those, those teachers that actually were able to kind of connect and have that opportunity for you to grow. But I love that you had that entrepreneurial spirit. It sounds like from day one, and being, kind of, it sounds like no matter what it is, you were able to kind of, seems like excel with it.
Yeah, it was always supported by great people and friends. I've never been one of those entrepreneurs, Gresh, that's kind of just done it on my own. Always had people around me or close to me that believed in me and gave me a chance long before the imposter in me would have believed I deserved it.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think so many times when you see people with so much success, you don't see that imposter, you just see the highlights of all the things that they're doing. But I'm a big believer that a lot of times to reach certain altitudes, you have to have a great environment around you. I'm kind of biased in the sense that I don't feel like we go through this journey alone. And especially when you reach success, I think there's at least some people that have sacrificed or done some things, even maybe hold the door open in some form, shape, or fashion for you to get to where you should be.
Yeah, I have such a long list of people and it's kind of in my mind. And just hearing you say that, I almost think I actually need to just go and write all of them down that I want to thank, and just go through a full gratitude exercise over time to make sure I explicitly thank the immeasurable number of people that have helped me, held a door open, and given opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that exercise. I think that's, just a great exercise for everybody to go through. For one, sometimes when we do things and they're sometimes called small acts of kindness, you never realize that small act to you might be someone's world. And when you start to kind of give that recognition, give that appreciation, I think it just creates a overall phenomenal environment.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more, hear a little bit more about what you're doing with NetSure. Can you take us through like how you're serving your clients and making that impact?
Yeah, sure. Uh, our purpose as a business is supporting the dreams of the doers. And the primary pillar of that is really around the aspirations of our culture and our people. And so we've created and aspire to create a culture that really is the infusion of both your work and your personal life, and allows you to pursue what you really want in your life while still doing truly great work. And we believe if we can find and keep great people through that, we in turn will be able to find and keep great clients. How do we support our clients in achieving their goals and objectives? We take our knowledge of their business, where we've got various ways in which we grow our knowledge of their business. And in turn, we put forward technology recommendations and services that have a meaningful impact on the success of their business. And from a service perspective, there are three core services. One is our managed service, which is really a monthly retainer that we are paid to look after their technology environment, from the way the users access their email through to how they might be experiencing the speed of their technology environment. We become that one point of contact to support them. The second piece is from a security perspective. We are looking to really shore up any potential risks in their technology environment that could potentially result in them being hacked. And then the final piece of our service, which is a piece that we're probably the most excited about from a differentiation perspective. The service is called Innovate, and it's also a monthly engagement, where if you're paying us $5,000 a month, we will find a $60,000 ROI in your business based on leveraging the adoption of the technology you already have by your team, reducing the risk, and automating whatever processes can be automated using predominantly the Microsoft technology framework, Gersh. We're not really in the Google space. And that's just really exciting, because what it's doing is it's taking the risk out of it for our customers. And what it essentially does is it's enabling them to see the return on the technology investment they've already made. And a typical customer for us is kind of 25 to 1,000 user environments.
Nice. I love and appreciate you breaking that down. Especially, I love that innovate, piece, and how exciting that is, because I think so many people probably, and you probably experience that with clients, where organizations only maybe even scratch the surface on the opportunity they have with the tools that they have. So to be able to delve deeper and provide those, value adds that you do, I imagine that's extremely attractive.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that, any great services, at the heart of it, it's all about like why you do those services. So being able to support the dreams of the doers, it just really resonates with me, because I think so many times when you're trying to kind of get across the bridge, you're trying to provide a, service, you have this knowledge, this expertise, whatever it is. Sometimes you don't have the ability to get over the bridge, but it's like we were talking about before, by leaning on other people, that's where that happens. So it kind of sounds like you have that relationship with your clients, employees, and it sounds like even your team as well.
Yeah, that's definitely what we aspire to. I think there are times in any business where your culture is just flourishing. It doesn't feel like you're even trying that hard. And then other times, a lot of people are unhappy and you're trying really, really hard. So I think it's generally, we're very happy at the level that it's at, but at times it seems easier than others.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I think it goes back to it just ultimately always being a journey. I think when we kind of say,
Sure.
we're trying to do the checkpoint, then we always can find ourselves, a little bit below or above sometimes where we want to be.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Nice, nice, nice. So I think you probably already touched on this a little bit. I usually ask for your secret sauce, and it could be for the organization, yourself, or a combination of both. But is it that innovation piece that you guys have launched? Do you feel like that has been a strong part of what sets you apart?
So I think there are two parts to this in my mind. One is at the heart of our culture and the people dynamic within Netsurit is us aligning what do you really want in your personal life and your life overall, and can that be realized being part of the Netsurit team and family. So at the heart of my personal secret sauce has been I mean, I've been doing a dream book, which is really your top 10 personal goals and dreams visualized since about 2004.
Hmm.
And we introduced it in the business in about 2008, Gresh. And so we've had the dreams program ever since then. So in my mind, that's definitely part of our secret sauce. And I think, you know, when we look at the fast growth that we've gone through and the fast growth that we are planning, protecting the culture is probably the single most important thing. And I think this our dreams program and focusing on what people really want in their lives is a part of our secret sauce. And I can tell you now, there have been times where we've done acquisitions and the interpretation has been that this is some grand scheme to manipulate them. And eventually people realize it's not a fad or it's not a gimmick. This is in our DNA. And then the second part of our secret sauce, I think, is as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you've seen it in your journey too, we never arrive, you know. So if I go back 10 years, how easy it was for us to find customers and close new business. When I look at the level of marketing investment, it has exponentially changed. So the need to differentiate is more important for my type of business than ever before. And so fortunately, we have quite a detailed, involved strategic planning process that makes us look quite hard in the mirror. And if I gave you insight into how bad our organic growth was in 2019 and going into the pandemic, you would, you know, it looked cataclysmic. But we reinvented ourselves, we reinvested, and we've ended up now with a truly differentiated offering that actually started. The early investment of that started in June of 2020, and we're now 2 years past, and now that offering is at a level where it's unbelievably exciting and I think truly differentiated. So one, our dreams program and focusing on what our people really want in their lives, I think is part of our secret sauce. And number two, having a strategic planning process. And it's not the fanciest process, but it's an honest process where we really look at our strategy and what we're doing and decide as a team what we need to change.
Nice. I absolutely love those, aspects of the secret sauce and, especially the dreams program where, you used the word earlier, infuse. And I've always heard, work-life balance. I like to say work-life integration, but I love that word infuse because it really becomes a part of the essence of every aspect of it. You're not just pulling two things together. It actually is going hand in hand and it sounds like it's dependent in it. And I absolutely love, what you said about the strategic planning, but the phrase that really resonated with me that you said was looking in the mirror. And I think so many times as individuals, organizations, if you don't create that space time to look in the mirror, whether it's the most elaborate plan or the most elaborate thing, but a lot of times we're going from thing to thing to thing that you don't really create that space so that you can say, hey, this is what we're world class at, let's double down on that, or this is what we're not world class at, let's get away from that. And either of those things is extremely powerful.
No, and that point, you know, so out of every strategic planning process, we end up with a list that is too long. And one of the hardest things is to say these are all the things we're not going to do.
Hmm.
And that discipline, where we've honored it, has served us so well. In the years where we haven't been disciplined, Gresh, and I can think of a couple that I'm personally responsible for, it's hurt us. So that discipline to focus on what we agree is also just helps build that momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine that definitely helps supports the culture as well too, when everybody on the team knows probably where and how they're aligning with that overall parts. But it's so funny you mentioned that discipline because there's this quote by Steve Jobs. I think he talks a lot about innovation. He says innovation is not the things that you decide to do. A lot of times it's the things that you don't decide to do, because that long list, if you try to innovate in all those ways, you end up being overextended. People are sometimes confused. So it's so important to kind of trim that list, trim the fat, so that you can focus and truly, be world class and innovate.
Yeah, 100%. It's a guy that mentored me in my younger years. His name's Trent Rossini, just an amazing entrepreneur and leader. And I remember just talking to him about this particular challenge, and he just said 2 questions you need to ask for any major strategy or initiative you want to drive. Is it someone's day job? So is someone's day job, and are you going to invest in it? Because what we used to do in the past was we'd say, this guy's so good at running that department. Why don't we just give him this other thing too? And I'm sure he can make a success of it. But yeah, through experience, we realized he can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that guy is happy as well too, and being able to kind of say, okay, this is not the day job or it isn't, and be able to kind of lean more into that.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Yeah, that's I would definitely lean on personally, and I feel it just emanates into everything I do in a day. And I feel it's unbelievably powerful in dealing with the times where you feel so alone and frustrated and demotivated as an entrepreneur or as a person in general. I use a gratitude journal every
Mhm.
day. I get to it most days, and it's really 3 sections, at least 3 points on what I'm grateful for, and then 3 things I want to make sure I get done today, and then an affirmation statement. So it's, you can buy it in book form either on Amazon. It's called the 5 Minute Journal, or you can get it in an app. It's free, and I just find it, instead of looking at my phone first thing in the morning, I'm going to my gratitude journal, and instead of looking at messages and so forth and that, the first thought for the day is gratitude. And then I find myself, because that's how I started the day, I find myself almost looking for it in the day, because that's how I started, and that was the initial seed that I planted. And then the other one that's really just had a huge impact on me, and this might be less unique, but when I'm meditating, whether it be 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes a day in the morning, particularly in the morning, the quality of my thinking and the quality of my listening is exponentially greater. And there's and I think I mentioned to you in the chat that we had it, you have this, in the way you listen, it is such an active way of listening that it actually amplifies the quality of people's thinking around you. And there's a great book, if you ever wanted to kind of dig into the idea of your leadership culture in your business as a CEO, and why is it that those really gregarious people always talk up so quickly, and some of those really thoughtful, pensive, more introverted people never speak up? There's a great book by Nancy Klein called Time to Think. And it's about the quality of the listening in your culture has an impact on the quality of the thinking. In turn, what people feel will be, they can contribute and will be heard.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because when you mentioned the meditating and being able to kind of listen, ask questions, do all those things that kind of come from that, I immediately thought more of, the leadership piece, and how having that exercise, for lack of a better term, you start to really see that become an underpinning of the culture. You start to see how that manifests itself. As are your leader that says, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not listening to the feedback, you're not listening to maybe the clients, the customers, whatever that might be. And I love how, practical that hack is, but I love how that can manifest itself in so many different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love too the meditating, the piece where you mentioned about the gratitude, because I was gonna actually ask you, do you feel like once you start to practice that, gratitude ends up being like a muscle? Because even when we were speaking before, where we talked about, these are the people that helped me open up doors, you immediately said, hey, I need to do
Yeah.
a gratitude exercise. So I wonder if that is a strong underpinning of how you start to think too.
Yeah, no, it is. It's it was my cousin's birthday the other day, and in the early days of my business, there's so many of these stories, but I didn't really have money for a reasonable car, and I'd crashed my car, and he had given me his car with like a very favorable payment plan. And there are all these examples that, yeah, it's a muscle that grows and develops. And the science of it shows, if you look at Seligman's book called Flourish, where he took 400 clinically depressed patients, 200 they put on medication, and 200 they did exercises with. And gratitude was one of the main things. And gratitude plus a couple of other things, they were better off from a mental wellness perspective than those that took medication. So that gratitude piece is scientifically proven, because it's not, you think, because say for instance, I'm thanking you, Gresh, for being on the show and for having me. You'd think it's a big benefit to you, but chemically, what they've seen and psychologically, the person saying thank you is getting more out of it than the person that you're thanking.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so powerful that I think so many times too we forget that the best and most powerful thing you could do is not sometimes giving people the opportunity to give as well too. So I think it
Yep.
just creates such a strong environment when you're able to kind of be in that way where the giver and the thinker and so far. And so we end up being in the same place because we're both, getting that opportunity to kind of have that win-win situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So would you consider that to be what I like to call a CEO nugget? A little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell your favorite
Yes.
business client, or you hop into a time machine, you might tell your young business self.
Yes. I think it's one of the most powerful forces in a culture. And we have our company-wide meetings, whether it be regional or the whole company, and we had a section which is called wow moments, where you would basically just recognize something someone did. And one of the team, we also have a section in our meeting where you can ask an anonymous question, and you have to, and someone from the leadership team has to answer it in the company-wide meeting very openly and transparently. And someone submitted saying the wow moments have lost their impact. How do we change it? And one of our team members, his name is Nsika, Nsika Zulu, and he went away and did some research, and he came back and he revised the way we show gratitude in publicly. And he broke it down into two categories. We kept the wow moments, but he came up with a new category, which is called sawubona. So sawubona in Zulu means I see you. And it's and I can tell you now, I literally looked at, because we run our staff satisfaction survey every 6 months. After he implemented that, literally you saw the gratitude just peak. It reached its highest level ever in the business. And yeah, I think there's a balance. Some people don't like to be thanked publicly, and be aware of that. I think that's the minority. But we have a culture where people are winning and we want to thank people. We try and do it as often as publicly and as authentically as possible, because I think if it becomes too flippant and superficial, then it will lose its value. But I definitely think it's a huge untapped force in a culture that can be leveraged so easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I see you and just kind of understand that, because I feel like that, is rooted in a strong human need for appreciation, to be seen, to be valued. Like you said, it may not necessarily be, shouted from the rooftops, but at the same time, you still want to be valued and appreciated and seen for the things that you're good at. So I absolutely appreciate that. And now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. We're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So, Orrin, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It For me, it comes with a huge sense of accountability. I I look at some of the tough decisions that I've had to make, and sometimes, Gresh, that is meant actually letting people go because of the macroeconomic or business challenges that we're facing. And when you look at the people first orientation of our culture, you could say, well, how can letting people go fit with that? And it's really, as leaders, we need to balance the livelihood and the likelihood of the survival of the business. So it definitely makes me unbelievably accountable. And the one concept, that we try to live, and I try to live as a CEO, but I don't always get it right, is the in the mirror and out the window leadership. When things are tough and we're getting it wrong, look in the mirror and hold yourself as the CEO accountable. And when things are going really well, find someone to really recognize and give credit. And I think finally, what does it mean to me to be a CEO? It feels like a massive honor and a privilege. Just the hugest honor and privilege. And particularly when I look at how our leadership team supports me in my role. Maybe one last story just to conclude this point. When I was in the early days of the business, we had no money, and we would pay, so typically in South Africa, you pay salaries once a month. We would phone you before payday and say, listen, things are tight. Can we pay half your salary now and half 2 weeks later? And so we were in a constant phase of this paranoia in the beginning. And when I used to walk past our meeting room and there was a meeting and I wasn't in it and I didn't know about it, I would like lose my shit. I would get upset and like, why is there a meeting? Now, we're over 300 people. The more meetings I'm not in, the better. And from a CEO perspective, the way we've achieved that is just giving people all the knowledge and information about the business to empower them and decentralize the thinking. Let them make the decisions, let them make the mistakes, let them celebrate the wins. So that's a big part of the accountability, but it's a big part of what has enabled us to grow, is that I'm involved in much less than I ever was before, and it keeps me balanced and sane.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that story. And I think, you can definitely hear as well too, the journey and the growth and all those things that have happened. And even the perspective on, being a CEO means in being every meeting, having your hands on everything versus being able to kind of empower the people and how that growth has happened. And it kind of sounds like it's been hand in hand with the strength of the culture, the strength of the amount of people, and the success that you all are having. So I think it's such a great reminder, and I love that accountability, the value, and all the things you've been able to do, and kind of see that grow to fruition throughout the organization.
Yeah, thanks, Krish.
Absolutely. Well, Orrin, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So what I want to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get hold of you, find about all the awesome things you and your team are working on.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Gresh. Look, if you are a business in the range of sort of 25 to 1,000 user environments, you have predominantly a Microsoft technology stack, and you're grappling with how you make the most of what you've invested in already, we offer a free Innovate business automation assessment. You can text me on my mobile. I love responding. I'm very responsive. So you can text me on 917-517-7763 and just include Innovate business automation in that text, Innovate business automation. So I'll just read that, 917-517-7763. And yeah, just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, Gresh, really appreciate the opportunity of having me on your show today.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate you for, your time and all the awesome things that you're doing. Of course, we're going to have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can follow up with you, text you, find out about all those awesome things. But, just like I said in the beginning, a lot of times we have our zone of genius, our expertise, and you start to realize that our zone of genius and expertise and it isn't all the things. Even if you can do quote unquote all the things, you don't want to do that. That's why you want to lean on the expertise of, organizations like yours and what you've been able to do, as you've seen within the organization, of course, outside of it. So thank you so much for reminding us of that, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
You too. Absolute pleasure, Gresh.